live from the brand new RX New York studios here in New York. This is Ask Dave on rxmuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. It is my pleasure to welcome back the RX Muscle audience live for the first time in, I think it's been about 3 weeks since we last came to you live, but we're back. And obviously, Dave, Johnny Styles, and families have moved down to Cape Coral, Florida, have set up their new office space down there. The new RX Muscle original headquarters being constructed as we speak. But we are back. We are live as we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, you've been in Florida for now about 2 weeks. Give our audience sort of an update as far as how the moving in process and the overall transition has been for you and for the family.
Well, I've been here for 14 days, and one of those 14 days, 24 hours of that was driving here, so that was quite the experience. And I'm actually about to put up the, I took some I guess you could say iPhone videos of the whole trip down there, and you'll get to see me in different states and stuff like that. I don't find it amusing, but other people obviously might find it amusing, my anguish over driving all that distance with my good friend Cole Hanzik. So it was definitely an experience. I wouldn't want to do it again, but it wasn't so bad. It could have been worse. There was some close calls that luckily turned out not to be so bad. We really didn't hit any traffic, so that made the trip a little easier. But yeah, we're not in the new RX Muscle studios yet. Johnny and I are still building them out. They're not ready yet, so we're in kind of makeshift studio mode here. But obviously, we don't want the RX Muscle audience to miss a single episode of Ask Dave. So luckily, we had pre-taped the two, but now we're going live again. So we got the NPC Nationals this weekend. I'll be driving down to Miami with Johnny on Friday morning, and we're meeting up with Chris Aceto down there and Mike Sansevero to give you guys great coverage of the Nationals. Don't want to miss that show. That's a biggie. And then Johnny and I, a week and a half later, will be in San Marino at the San Marino Pro. John Enrico Pico will be flying us in to cover that event. I think I'm doing some kind of a panel debate with George Farah and Sean Ray. I'm not sure, but that could be an interesting, hopefully Johnny will be able to tape that. That should be interesting, to say the least. You know, I was sitting in this new office that we're renting temporarily. I was sitting after hours. Everyone goes home. It was empty here. I was the only one in the building, and I'm sitting on the toilet, and it's all of a sudden the lights go out, okay, and everything goes pitch black, and I'm in a foreign place in a foreign building in the dark, and I said, you know what? How do I know I'm not dead? I could be dead right now. I mean, the lights literally went out. I couldn't see anything anywhere. I was just in the dark. I'm like, that's it. This is how it's ending. I can't believe it. And I moved to the left a little bit, and then the automatic lights went on, and I was like, whew, I'm still here. So, guys, we still got more to give you guys. It's not over yet. And, Sid, hit me with these questions. I'm sure we're backed up quite a bit.
No, absolutely. But it is good to know that the move went well and that, in fact, the lights going out of the bathroom did not entail the fact that you died in the bathroom. You are alive, and that you're ready to take these questions, and the fans have been waiting, and we are ready to go. We start on the RX Muscle Forum. If you want to join us, you can join us on the RX Muscle Forum, the Muscle Central Forum. You can join us on our Instagram page if you're watching us live on YouTube, on the chat box on the right-hand side, and as always, on Facebook, and by tweeting your questions using hashtag AskDave. We go to the Muscle Central Forum and go to Finkel IFBB. This show is worse than an example of a mass-gaining diet from Dave Palumbo with 1 to 1.5 gram carbs per pound body weight. My 120-pound girlfriend can't grow from that. Now the question, I want to have gyno surgery in about a month. My next bodybuilding show will be in late April. Will the gyno surgery affect my show prep? And if so, to what degree?
It's an interesting question. It's so weird. It's so coincidental because my good friend Cole Hanzik, who just drove to Florida with me, is just had his appointment with Dr. Blau, who's the #1 gynecomastia surgeon in the world. That's right, in the world. He worked on me in 1991, 25 years ago, and I've sent thousands of bodybuilders to him over the years. You know, gynecomastia surgery is it's like for a woman getting facial surgery. Because when a man takes his shirt off, the first thing you see is his chest. So you don't want to skimp. You don't want to go to people who, just because you're getting a cheap rate on it, you got to get it done by someone who knows what they're doing. Someone who's going to take all the glands out. Because if you don't take the glands out, they grow back. Okay, so very important. Now, Cole is also doing his first bodybuilding show in April, too. And he asked me the same question. Dave, if I get my gynecomastia surgery done in early December, am I going to have enough time to recover? And the answer to that is yes. I missed 3 weeks out of the gym when I first got my gynecomastia surgery done. Probably 3 to 4 weeks probably 4 weeks is a safer bet to not train chest, but your body comes back after that pretty quickly. I think I was training my legs, after 2 weeks or something like that, or 10 days. So it's not a difficult surgery. The worst part is the first couple days because they're cutting such vascular tissue out. It's very easy to bleed. And if you bleed by doing too many activities or moving around too much or taking nutritional supplements or aspirin, stuff that makes you inhibit clotting, it'll be a miserable experience for you. So you really want to rest those first couple days after the surgery to let all those vessels clot up. Once the clotting occurs after a week, the recovery is pretty fast after that.
Let's go to Droll S or Drolls. Dave, can't thank you enough for all the time you've taken out of your day to do this awesome show and help me with my questions. It's helping me get ready for my first show. My question today is about Clenbuterol. What do you recommend is the best way to run it? Most say to do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, but can I run it for 16 weeks while slowing up the dose? Which is better?
I've said this a million times already. When you first take anabolic steroids, the first, several weeks, they work really well. And then they kind of you kind of attenuate to them a little bit and plateau a little, but they don't stop working. Imagine if you went on steroids for 2-3 weeks and then went off them for 2-3 weeks. You'd never make any gains. Same thing with Clenbuterol. When you stop Clenbuterol, you kind of have a negative rebound on the stuff. So you don't want to take it and then go. I know the original Bill Phillips protocol that he put out in the Anabolic Reference Guide or his anabolic newsletters he had was 2 on, 2 off, but it doesn't work well like that. We used to do 2 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 2 days off. Stay on it continuously. It works way better that way. I like to start at 20 micrograms twice a day, and I like to increase that by 20 micrograms every 2 to 3 weeks, never going more than 20 micrograms 6 times a day. And that seems to be the ideal way to lose body fat with it.
Let's go to Jack with an H. Hi, Dave. I have Humatrope cartridges, but I don't know where to get the Humatrope injection device. So I read in a forum that a guy was having a hard time to get the device. Also, then a dude replied that he has the same cartridges and has been using it without the device by withdrawing the water that comes with the growth hormone and injecting that into the cartridge to reconstitute. Do you think it's okay if I do the same or if I have to use the device?
Yeah, you don't need to use the Humatrope cartridge pen. Just like insulin comes like that too in pens sometimes. It just makes it easier for people who don't want to have to figure out mixing. I would just draw the water up with the needle and then inject it directly into the powder and just draw it right out of there with my own insulin pen. I don't think that the cartridge is necessary. I think it's a waste of. I think a lot of it gets stuck in that cartridge too, in the little pen cartridge. So if you use a direct needle in and out, you're going to get much more yield out of the product. So there's not a problem at all doing that.
Let's go to Jeeb420. First time hating this show. We certainly hope it is not the last time you hate this show. Question is, how long to run T3 and Clen when not in contest prep for men and for women?
I don't even know if I would use Clenbuterol and Cytomel if you're not in contest prep, unless you're just doing a personal diet down for 16 weeks, something like that. You could use it for 16 weeks. I mean, I use Clenbuterol on people for 16, 18 weeks all the time. Same thing with Cytomel or T3. I might use that for 12 to 16 weeks. People saying, oh, you should only use small amounts of it or short periods of time. You don't get any more or any less suppression if you're using it for 16 weeks than if you're using it for 20 weeks or if you're using it for 8 weeks. Once you suppress your natural endogenous levels of T3, when you stop the stuff, your T3 will kick back on again. What a lot of people experience is that there are a certain percentage of the population out there that have low thyroid hormone, but they don't know it because they've never been tested. And what happens is they go on a cycle of T3 and Clenbuterol, and then they come off after the show, they go get blood, and they realize their T3 is low, and they think it's from taking the drugs. The truth is they've been having low T3 probably for the last 10 years of their life, and they're just first finding out now because they're actually testing their levels. So for most people, a month after you stop T3, your thyroid levels are back to normal.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. This is our first live broadcast since our last one out of the original RX Muscle headquarters. Dave, Johnny Styles, and family, of course, are now in Florida. I'm here in the new RxNY, RX Muscle in New York studios, of course, minutes away from the original headquarters. This is just the beginning. We're going to be bringing you all the content that we've been bringing you over the last couple of years with the new shows, Iron Debate, Ask Dave, Versus, of course, Muscle in the Morning every day, and a whole lot more. Then we have a few new segments in mind as well. Of course, there's Iron Rage and Dave's RX Rants, which have really taken on a life of its own. All that and more on RxMuscle.com. We're now going to go to our YouTube channel. Questions. If you're watching us on YouTube for the first time, hit the subscribe button below. You're going to get all of our show segments. Hit the notification button, and it's going to go straight to your mobile device, to your email. You're not going to miss any of our shows, segments, or updates. Let's go to Mr. Kirby. Tons of good information. Dave, what is your opinion on IGF-1 LR3? I'm currently on 500 MGF test once a week and thinking about stacking them together.
IGF-1 is a great anabolic hormone. It's really the only truly anabolic protein hormone that's out there. You know, when we talk about GH, growth hormone is not anabolic. It's indirectly anabolic because it indirectly stimulates the release of IGF-1, which is the anabolic aspect of it. Likewise, if you watched my rant I did the other day on insulin, insulin's not an anabolic hormone. It doesn't build muscle. It just drives nutrients into the muscle cells. It doesn't have a muscle building effect. IGF-1 binds to IGF-1 binding proteins, IGF-1 binds to IGF-1 receptors on the cell membrane, hopefully avoiding the binding proteins because that's what deactivates it, and it will initiate protein synthesis. It tells the muscles, build muscle. You know, take undifferentiated satellite cells, also known as stem cells, turn them into new muscle tissue. The problem with IGF receptors is that they downgrade very quickly. So if you take too much IGF too frequently, the receptors disappear and then your body doesn't respond to it. So less is better with IGF. 10 to 20 micrograms a day, 4 weeks on, and then taking off 2 weeks before starting it up again is the right way to do it.
Let's go to Demetrius. Dave, quick question. I can't run HCG on cycle. What is the best protocol to run it before getting on SARMs in PCT?
I don't really understand what the question was. He said he can't run HCG?
Yeah.
And so what is he looking for? Something, an alternative?
Protocol to run it on before getting on SARMs and PCT.
I'm not understanding the question.
So he says that he can't run HCG on a cycle. Then he's asking you for the best protocol to run it before getting on SARMs in a PCT. Well,
if he can't run it, I'm not sure what he wants me to tell him to take before he can't run it. It's a confusing question.
Well, you know what then? I think we'll go straight to our Instagram questions. Right. And again, if you are not following us on Instagram, our Instagram handle is official_RxMuscle. Let's go to Caleb Grits. And this has been one of the topics of conversation, Dave, for the last week or so, and that has been the challenge that Kevin Levrone levied to Sean Ray. I believe the prize money was $50,000. What are your thoughts on the Kevin Levrone challenge to Sean Ray?
You know, everyone thinks, and I don't know, because I'm so brutally honest about how I feel, people think I'm like disrespecting Kevin Levrone, and that Levrone's, got people in his ears saying Dave's disrespecting you, and who knows, he might even think I am because I haven't heard from him. So I don't know. I think Kevin's looking for, the hype train is high with Kevin. People love Levrone, and it might be partially because I hyped him up so high, and he deserves it. He's a legend in this industry, and he was a guy I looked up to and I wanted to emulate. And I think that I think I could really relate to Levrone at some level what he's trying to do. I think he realizes maybe that he's not going to be an Olympia guy, even though he's trying to make his best comeback he possibly can. And he said he's going to train all year and compete in 17. Now he's trying to drag more controversy into what he's doing. I don't think that Sean Ray has any desire whatsoever to get back on stage, to get back to the size he was, to even work out for that matter. I think Sean's happy where he is. and I don't think that there'll be any reality to it. Although obviously as fans of the sport, we would love to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Sean would be a hypocrite if he did it, because he was super critical of Levrone going back on gear and getting so big again, and he was saying it was bad for his health. So I don't think we'll ever see Sean Ray do that ever again. And I think it's smart of him, because why ruin his legacy? People remember him retiring at the top of his game, a top 5 Olympian.
Let's go back to that question. So Demetrius from our YouTube channel clarified he meant SERMs. So I'll read the question again. He can't run HCG on cycle. What is the best protocol to run it before getting on SERMs in PCT?
I'm assuming he's asking what can he be used as an alternative to HCG, since he's not using it. SERMs are selected estrogen receptor modulators like Nolvadex or Clomid. Those compounds block the estrogen receptor. They don't prevent estrogen from being formed. They block the receptor, which is good in the hypothalamus gland in the brain, because when you block those receptors, it enables the hypothalamus to send out signal to the pituitary, gonadotropic releasing hormone, and then the pituitary will release LH and FSH, which then directly stimulates the testicles to produce testosterone. That's good for turning on the pituitary gland and then indirectly turning on the testicles. The reason we take HCG first is because HCG directly stimulates the testicles, but we can get away with taking just SERMs. I like Clomid better than Nolvadex at 50 milligrams per day. I also recommend that a lot of people use the product I make from Species Nutrition called Testolyze, because what Testolyze does is it balances all the hormones. So it does raise testosterone, but it lowers estrogen and lowers DHT. So you're optimizing the hormonal environment, because a lot of times you don't feel good after a cycle because you went from this super high testosterone compared to estrogen and DHT. Now you take away that testosterone and your DHT and estrogen rise up, and you actually have more of that than you have testosterone, which makes you feel terrible. So the Testolyze balances those hormones, those 3 hormones out. So it's a good product to take while you're on a PCT, especially if you're not taking HCG.
Let's go back to our Instagram questions again. This is such a loyal follow. When we put on these questions about a half hour ago, we already have 45 questions. So as always, we appreciate your support. Let's go to Al Fenery. Dave, what effect does the sauna have on the way that the body looks? I guess you want some background behind what a sauna does to a body's appearance.
Personally, I'm not really a big sauna advocate. From a detoxification standpoint, I guess it makes you sweat. You could sweat out toxins. I have an ozone sauna, which is a different beast altogether, because it makes you sweat. It's like a little pod you sit in. It makes you sweat, but there's ozone being pumped into the sauna, so your skin is absorbing the ozone, which is having the detoxification effect. So that's not quite the same as just going and sweating. Now, I know a lot of guys go to saunas thinking they're going to burn body fat. That's the biggest waste of time. All you're doing is dehydrating yourself. And as we know, a dehydrated muscle is a very catabolic, or a muscle that's in a state of breakdown. Muscles don't like to be catabolic. It's not good for the body. It's not good for anabolic processes. So what would be the reason for going in a sauna? I don't know. Heating your body up? I don't know. You know what? When we had the hurricane a couple years ago, I was always freezing cold because I was living in my studio and there was no heat. I would go in the sauna just to warm up. But other than that, I don't really see a benefit. Some people will go in a sauna just before they work out to warm the muscles up. But as far as from a fat burning effect, don't waste your time.
Bias Viegas, why don't the majority of the top IFBB pros display a stomach vacuum on stage? Is a small waist no longer desirable on stage?
I don't think the vacuum has anything to do with the waist size. I think guys are just lazy and they don't want to practice the vacuum. That's probably the biggest reason why we don't see a vacuum. You got to practice. You got to suck your stomach in 400 times a day, and you got to practice doing it. And guys are lazy. They don't practice their posing. And I think it's a mistake. I remember Jose Raymond used to do it early in his career, and then he stopped doing it, and he was having trouble with his stomach. I said, Jose, you got to do that vacuum pose. That was like your signature pose. And now he can do it again. So it's way more impressive, I think. Not everyone has a good physique to do the vacuum pose. You have to have a big rib cage and a smaller waist. It looks good if you have that, if you do that vacuum. If you're a bigger waisted guy, that's probably not the best pose for you to be doing. I think it has to do, like I said, more with laziness than inability to do it. Now, some guys just have big guts and they just can't control anything. And once again, that has to do with the fact that they don't train their abs, they don't work those transverse abdominis muscles that are responsible for sucking in the stomach, and thus they have no option but not to do the vacuum pose on stage.
You're watching Ask Dave on rsmuscle.com. We'll take 2 to 3 more questions. Let's go to Walang Forever Official. Dave, why am I still losing fat and gaining strength on all my lifts, even though I'm on a high carb, moderate protein, low fat diet? Aren't carb spikes, I guess he's asking if carbs should spike insulin, which turns the body to a fat storage mood, and moderate proteins intake, your body wouldn't be able to build muscle.
You'd be surprised. You don't need to eat as much protein as you think to build muscle. At least some people don't. People with crazy metabolisms need to eat a lot. But I know most people don't have super fast metabolism. As long as you give your body enough fuel to fuel the processes that's going on in the gym, all you need is a threshold amount of protein to build muscle. The problem is that most people don't eat enough energy. So probably the carbs you're eating are fueling your processes. You're eating just enough protein to give your body what it needs, plus a little extra to build that extra mass, and it's working for you. The same guy, the same weight as you, the same height as you, may eat the same diet, do the same workout regimen, and they may lose muscle. And another guy may do the same thing as you do, and they may get fat. So you don't know really. I mean, everyone's body's different. So it's hard for me to give you a blanket statement. By and far, most people who eat high carb, low protein diets or lower protein diets will not gain muscle and get stronger. They may get a little stronger, but they're not going to get bigger. But like I said, everyone's different, so you can't really say this is the right way to do it. You have to experiment and see what works for your body.
Let's go to M7MD100. Dave, is the foam roller a good substitute for an expensive massage?
Nothing is a good substitution for a good quality massage. Matter of fact, there's 2 people in our building here where we have our office situated that do massages, and I got one to give me a massage. She was a little on the lighter side, but I needed it. I had just gotten back from my road trip and I was exhausted. The guy downstairs looks like he's a little rougher. I might have to go for a massage from him, see how he works out, because he might get a little deeper. Yeah, but nothing beats a massage. A roller is good, I guess, in an emergency situation where you got no other option, but a good deep tissue massage, nothing beats it.
Let's go to Frank Semino76 on our Instagram. Dave, what do you think about training such as boxing post-workout for a form of cardio? Is it beneficial, and is there any risk to losing size?
There's a huge risk to losing size because you just did a weight training session. Now you're in a depleted state, and now you're going to do super high intensity activity again. That's an excellent formula to lose, lean muscle tissue, because your body's going to cannibalize that muscle tissue for fuel. And we don't want that. So if you're going to do a high intensity boxing, you better eat something before. Don't do it back to back with weight training.
We had this form of question last year for Kevin Levrone, and now we're going to get the same format of question for another legend and the rumors of him coming back. This one is from Jack and Stack 1. Dave, any truth to the rumors that Flex Wheeler is in training to compete at the Olympia next year?
Never happened. No way. Flex Wheeler, has one kidney, and it's a kidney transplant. He's on anti-rejection drugs. There's no way that Flex is going to risk losing that kidney. He might be back to training and trying to get himself into good shape, which I think is important. But no way that you're going to see this guy back on stage. I don't believe it, and I think it's just a hype train, hype rumor. And if it is true, let Levrone challenge Flex Wheeler to a pose down. Flex used to beat Levrone. Sean barely beat Levrone, maybe a couple times. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Flex is getting himself back into shape, which I like to see.
Hypothetical question from Mishi1018. What if one day she came home and found that her husband finished all of her isolized, not that he would want to put his life in jeopardy like that, would mixing egg whites in Carbolyze be an acceptable substitute post-workout?
Yeah, I think egg whites are acceptable. Egg white protein is an excellent source of protein. I looked into it making that to go along with some of the whey isolate that we produce. but it's super expensive. So egg white protein, believe it or not, is actually more expensive, believe it, than whey isolate is. Now, whey isolate is a more complete protein. When we talk about egg protein, whole eggs are really, really high quality in terms of having all the right amino acids. Egg white's not as good as the whole egg. Obviously, the whole egg also contains some fat. So when we talk about a complete, protein that's super bioavailable, I truly still believe that whey isolate is the gold standard.
I'm going to ask one more question only because he prefaces, I know Johnny Styles is going to kill me. From ARC129, hey Dave, serious question for you. I'm on my first cycle and sometimes I'll get this tightness in my chest for hours or days on end. I'm also nauseous every time I eat. My buddy says it could be my blood pressure, but that I have checked regularly and it's never been over 148 over 75. I also just got my blood work done and everything looks normal. I'm currently running 750 to 800 test E a week and my diet is super clean. Any help will be awesome. Thank you. By the way, if I end up in a hospital, I'll really hate your show.
I could speculate what's going on, but that would be foolish of me. If anytime you're having heart pain or chest pain or shortness of breath or anything like that, always go get it checked out because you're better safe than sorry because it could be something that's easily fixed. On the other hand, it could be, the beginnings of a heart attack. Now, it probably isn't that, but I would rather see you get it checked out because if you're getting little, warning signs, there could be a problem. You could have a blockage in one of your coronary arteries, and that wouldn't show up as high blood pressure. It wouldn't show up in any blood work. It wouldn't even show up on an echocardiogram. You'd have to get like some kind of a cardiac CT scan of your heart, or get the what's it called? The cardiac catheterization, where they actually put the camera up your cardiac vessels and they look at the vessels to see if they're open. So I would go to a cardiologist and I would get checked out because that's the safe way to be. Like I said, I'd rather see you alive than say, oh, he could have just gone to the doctor and checked it out. He had a little blockage in one of his coronary arteries. They could have put a stent in there. Or it could have just been indigestion. We don't know. So get it checked out. Better safe than sorry.
With that is going to bring the end to this first post-New York era episode of Ask Dave. Again, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions in this transitional period, don't be afraid to message us on our Instagram inbox. We'll get back to you within the hour. Wait, Dave, you have something to say?
I've been getting a lot of really good feedback on the Dave Palumbo app. It's called the Dave Palumbo Experience. You can go to your iTunes store, your Android store, and you can download it. It's $29 a month. It's an app where all my articles I've ever written, all my videos I've ever done, all the educational material is in there. We have workouts. We put up stuff. I have a partner who's doing it with me. I give him stuff to put up every single week. There's new content. There's exclusive Q&As on there, meaning that video Q&As that I don't release to the public that are answered on there. If you're a member of the app, you can submit your questions and I will answer them as well. It's a tremendous tool. We're always putting up new stuff. We're regrouping things. We have different drug sections for Q&As. It's one of the best resources, I think, of all the material that I've accumulated over the years. And I know a lot of people that are into the industry want a place they can go where they can read, and educate themselves on stuff that's 100% accurate, that's not just made up bro science, as we like to say. So if you want to check it out, it's called the Dave Palumbo Experience, and you can go to your app store and you can download it to your phone. I happen to, once again, think the guys who put this thing together, and I can't take credit for building it because my partners built it, they did a tremendous job. I think you guys will really love it.
So with that, we bid you farewell here on RxMuscle.com. Again, reminder, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, hit us up on Instagram. That is the easiest way to communicate with us, official_RxMuscle. For Dave Palumbo and Johnny Styles, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.